Grief Karga said you were coming.
What else did he say?
He said you were the best in the parsec. Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
You are a Mandalorian. Your ancestors wrote the great mythos.
Your name will be legendary.
I don't know if you heard, but the Empire is gone.
We have you 4-1.
I like those odds.
Hello and welcome to Mandalorian Minute, a Who Watches podcast about the Disney Plus series The Mandalorian. I'm Travis Fishburne.
I'm Ryan DeVere.
And Dustin will be joining us shortly. This week we'll be taking a look at the first two episodes of this new series, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, The Child. So, kind of up front, Ryan, there were a lot of things going into this show and the streaming platform that it was being launched on. What was your experience like the first day watching this?
I got in really early. I thought it was going to launch at like 9 a.m. our time, but I happened to just be up at 2 a.m. and signed up then. I hadn't done anything yet with it. I was like, I should probably get on this. Servers are going to be down all day. So I got in. I was able to watch the show immediately. Checked out, kind of what Disney Plus had to offer. And it was great. And I'm glad I did it then, because later that day I tried to check again and everything was down. Search was down. You couldn't browse the library, nothing.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
What about you? Did you have a similar?
For me, I actually didn't download and sign up opening day. The first day that it was up, I was so busy I didn't get around to Disney Plus and The Mandalorian. It wasn't until the next day I signed up for the bundle with Hulu and ESPN Plus, and then downloaded Disney Plus onto my devices and onto my Apple TV and everything, and it's all worked flawlessly thus far for me.
I think it's a cool package if it's like, if you don't have Hulu yet, or if you think you'll be able to go without live. Like the only thing that bugged me was the only way to package it, or the only way to get the package was with ads. Yeah. And so if you have Hulu without ads now, it's a downgrade.
Yeah, that's true.
I heard rumors at some point that they were going to do that bundle by the year and sell it, because they did just like the standard Disney Plus you could get for the year and get like basically 2 months free. And I heard they were going to try and do that, but I've not actually seen that yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see everything that Disney Plus is going to be offering up here soon. It seems to be what the majority of everyone that I see signing up for it is going to first, is this show.
They're coming in strong.
And for good reason. There's just a lot of history and lead up that went into this show, because it's been, not specifically this show, but a live action Star Wars television show has been in the works for almost 15 years now. George Lucas announced it. Yeah. He announced a live action show that he was going to be doing well over a decade ago at Star Wars Celebration 3, along with what became the Clone Wars. And then this show, I don't want to keep referring to it as this show, but what he was developing was Star Wars Underworld. Or as far as we know, that's what it was titled. And it's interesting, there was a thing at, it was at a toy fair or some kind of a convention where Lucasfilm had put up a timeline of their upcoming projects. And it was specifically like upcoming like television projects. And Clone Wars was on there, as was an untitled live action television show. Uh-huh. And the image that they had associated with that live action television show was Boba Fett's helmet. Oh. Which is very interesting considering what actually became of the first live action show, which is this, which focuses on Mandalorians and Mandalorian culture.
Yeah. Which focuses on
the
Boba
Underworld.
Fett,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know what's been stopping a live action show from happening. Like, I've heard about a couple different ones. Wasn't there one on the table for a minute that eventually became Rebels? Like, it was like right about the time that the merger happened.
That I'm not sure of.
Okay, I thought I heard something around that time frame that eventually then became Rebels, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, all we know so far is this show, the Cassian Andor series that's been announced, and the Kenobi series, which has been announced.
Man, they're coming out swinging. Like these are elements of the universe that people want to know more about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great form to do it in.
Yeah.
Rather than doing kind of the solo films,
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to test this. I think they're going to see what happens with Mandalorian, and they're clearly kind of not super happy with where their one-off films have been. So
very
maybe
much
we
so.
just get more television. And I honestly think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot more vision, a cohesive, large-scale vision behind doing a television show as opposed to this passing the torch with the movies they've been doing. There's not been some consistency there that I think we'd like, and don't know yet, but I think we're going to see throughout the entirety of this series, at least, the collaboration between Jon Favreau, whose idea this is based on, and Dave Filoni, who is helping him out with it and bring it to light, and he's George Lucas's protege. I think it's all going to come together in a much more cohesive and satisfying way.
Man, I hope so. I mean, Disney's been doing really great with kind of this shared universe stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously they've kind of tinkered with it with Marvel, and let's bring that to Star Wars and see what happens. Tell some of these other stories that don't probably need to be big parts of the mainline series, but they're just as consumable. Let's build this world out.
Oh, for sure.
So, do we know yet where The Mandalorian takes place in the timeline of Star Wars?
According to the Wikipedia page here, we can just go right into the episode right now.
Yeah.
5 years after the defeat of the Galactic Empire, a Mandalorian bounty hunter accepts an under-the-table job for an enigmatic client with Imperial connections who demands he travel to the desert planet Arvala 7 and find a 50-year-old target.
Yeah, I mean, the show comes out the gate with just setting up who the Mandalorian is, that he's very capable. We got Carl Weathers.
Yeah, that... I've watched, the episodes a few times, and in that premiere episode, really the one scene that I enjoyed the most, ironically, or I was just like the most intrigued by, is Carl Weathers and his character Grief Karga.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, partially because I can't see Carl Weathers and not think of Arrested Development.
Are you expecting him to say, I give
yeah.
you free refills here?
Yeah, kind of. But that felt like the most built out the world has gotten so far.
Yeah.
Like, we really got a sense of, like, they're talking about pucks, and it's not hockey. They've got these different, like, we get to know the most that we've learned so far about who the Mandalorian is.
Yeah.
And what, like, at least leading into maybe what his interests are, what his motivations are.
Yeah, there's a lot of exposition in that scene, and just characterization as well, I think, is what like really drew me in, is the fact that it's dialogue heavy in this show that is not about dialogue. It's like there are two conversations that are really had in that episode, but that's the one that I was really the most intrigued by.
For a show that so far is really taking its time, it's not rushed, and I like the pacing. You're really not talking a lot. Like,
No.
Even the Mandalorian is very quiet. Each scene has a couple lines of dialogue, but that's about it.
And Dustin just showed up.
Welcome, Dustin.
Welcome me. I'm here.
So we just covered basically, I mean,
Yeah, we
the Carl
just
Weathers scene.
Yeah, we dove into the first episode, and we're talking about Carl Weathers and Grief Karga.
Okay. Cool. So right before my favorite part of the episode. Good. Perfect.
Oh, interesting.
Perfect. Yeah. Did we talk about how great Brian Posehn is for all 10 seconds?
No, we
he's in
didn't
it?
get to talk about that yet.
Nope.
Him and Horatio Sands both.
Yeah, this is very interesting. I love that shot going across the ice. It's like a 1-for-1 of Luke in the speeder driving with 3PO across the desert.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a phenomenal job making this feel like Star Wars. It doesn't feel like budget Star Wars.
No, not at all. And the way that they're using the visual effects, I don't know if you got to hear or see about any of this, but at Star Wars Celebration, during the Mandalorian panel, Favreau and Filoni were talking about how they made his ship look on screen. And it's because they got some people at ILM very interested in building an actual miniature and shooting it against a blue screen in the exact same style that they shot the original ships in the original trilogy.
Nice.
So
Wow,
I
that's
think
awesome.
once we get more, flying space shots, we're going to be really impressed.
Good stuff.
So and then he goes and he speaks to this client. We don't know the name of him.
Just the client.
Yeah, just the client. He's got Imperial connections and he's got some stormtroopers.
It's actually just Werner Herzog as himself. There's always been a Werner Herzog, even in a galaxy far, far away, a long, long time ago.
Clearly, Mandalorian walks into this very pensive stormtrooper. He's not, he doesn't trust them. They're not particularly at ease around him.
No.
I don't know if we want to jump ahead, but like we learned kind of the Empire's fallen at this point, which
it's from everything that's in the expanded, not the I guess it's the expanded universe right now, but in comics and books, it's when the fall happened, it got fractured. So I think there's a bunch of different Imperial higher ups who are like, this is mine now. No, this is mine. So they are not united at all. And this Werner Herzog character, I think, is a part of that.
Yeah, one of those fringe elements of the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's that kind of power vacuum that happened, and so I'm expecting that we'll learn kind of more about that, and probably some sort of infighting.
Yeah,
even within the Empire. But then this guy walks in, and Mandalorian jumps to action, right? And we get this. They say, you're outnumbered, and we get the great line from the opening.
He says, "I like those odds."
I like those odds, man. He's cocky.
Oh yeah, like that is one of my favorite things. I was really afraid that it was going to be a largely silent performance from him, since they tried to do the whole man with no name thing with Boba Fett, and I'm really glad that the Mandalorian talks.
Oh yeah,
and like even has a sense of humor too. Like has some really great moments in this episode, because man, it would be just so boring if he didn't.
Yeah.
Like, I like that they're not trying to make him like a Boba Fett character. Like that they're definitely trying to flesh him out as his own thing. Like he's kind of got that level of moral ambiguity, and he's like I said, kind of got an ego about himself, which is great.
Yeah, I love the portrayal and the characterization that they're showing so far with him, because like you said, he does talk, and Pedro Pascal's voice goes really well with that.
Oh, it's perfect.
I also like that in the first scene and everything that I think kind of understood leading up to this, he's just like a complete badass who is capable of handling himself in any situation, but they show you how human he is. And like when he's trying to ride the blurgs with Quill and he's getting frustrated, and then in the second episode as well, everything that he has to go through, I love seeing him
with the space rhino or whatever.
I just love seeing him actually like struggle to get this done, and he's not. I feel like a lot of other shows or somebody else handling this could have inserted him into a scene and had him just completely handle everything without any issues at all and then move on. But the second episode is no, he has to.
Him getting knocked around
exactly.
a bunch. It's him getting electrocuted by jawas.
Yeah.
Wait, God, that might have been one of my favorite moments, is when he finally gets to the top of that sandcrawler and then just gets shot like 8 times.
Yeah.
He's capable, but he's not perfect.
No, like
And they've done a phenomenal job so far of showing and not telling.
Yes.
We don't have a line of dialogue that says, "Well, you're very young for a Mandalorian. You've got much to learn." Like, we're being shown. Yeah, he struggles. Yeah, he would rather take a speeder than then have to deal with an animal.
Yeah.
Like, all this stuff. Like, the characterization is great so far.
Yeah, I love the visual storytelling because that's very much in the vein of what George Lucas wanted to do with the original movies as well. It should be something that you can watch and not speak the same language or not even be able to hear, and you can still follow the story and understand what's going on. And that's definitely at play here, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, and I will say too, like the look of this show, more than the prequels, more than any of the new trilogy, like this is the closest to the original Star Wars I feel like the Star Wars has looked since the originals came out.
If you could pinpoint why that is, what do you think it is?
I mean, I think a lot of it is, probably reverence for the source material from Favreau has proven himself very capable of like taking other IPs and doing them justice, which is great. So I think that's part of it. I think too, out of necessity, because it's a television show. Like obviously they have some budget to work with, but like, they're not trying to green screen like every location like in the prequels or anything like that. And I think it just lends itself to it better. Like a friend of mine actually posted, I thought it was really funny. He said something along the lines of he thought it was funny that Star Wars was finally getting back to their roots of ripping off westerns and samurai movies. Which very much this show is doing, and I am 100% on board for that.
Oh yeah, me too.
Like we'll get to the scene later, but yeah, especially in some of the scenes in the first episode, like the western homages are especially heavily at play.
Yeah, and we can talk about those right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is free form.
So so when the Mandalorian and IG-11 storm that compound. Yeah, Taika Waititi, barely recognized, an unrecognizable.
Yeah, I
Taika
knew
Waititi.
he was voicing it going in, and that's the only reason like I could hear his voice. I think if I had no preconceptions about the character prior, I would have.
Yeah, I remember somebody telling me that he voiced the character, and when it got to that scene, I was like, who did my friend say voiced this bounty hunter? And I couldn't remember, and then I saw the credits. I was like, oh yeah, no, I wouldn't have recognized that as Taika Waititi for any reason.
Yeah.
I was very much expecting Korg.
Yeah. But so that scene where they take the mercenary compound, and then they bring out essentially the laser Gatling gun. Like that's literally, it's just the end of not the Dirty Dozen, the Wild Bunch.
Yeah,
it's just the end of the Wild Bunch.
Oh yeah.
And then when the Mandalorian jumps on and like starts just gunning down all those mercenaries, that was all I could think of was just Sam Peckinpah and just all was it Ernest Pike and or not Ernest Pike,
Ernest Borgnine.
Ernest Borgnine, yes, Pike's the character, and is it Joseph Holden, I think, is the main guy. It's either Joseph Holden or Joseph Cotton. Yeah. I can't remember which one it is, but just like that porch shootout from the end of the Wild Bunch is more of this, please. I'm on board for this.
And the banter and the humor with the initiate self-destruct.
Oh,
no,
God,
you're not
so
self-destruct.
No, stop it.
Do not do that.
Man, that was just a phenomenal scene because it balanced the seriousness of what was happening, and there's the humor element. We get to like the Mandalorians once they get frustrated. He doesn't have it under control, but he's not going out like a punk.
Oh yeah. I love too how like he as soon as he sees IG-11 he's just frustrated. He just like shakes it just like droids.
Yeah. Which he's got a thing against droids. I think that ties back to his past and history.
Yeah.
I think being like a refugee from the Clone Wars we see in the flashbacks, which I think ties into his deep distrust for droids.
Maybe Grievous killed his parents.
I don't know. Could be.
He's not a droid.
He doesn't know that. As far as anybody else would know, Grievous would be a droid.
Including anybody who watched the movie without
watching any of Clone Wars. Yeah.
Why is that droid coughing all the time?
Yeah, why does that droid need a nebulizer? Is that droid a smoker? What's going on?
Clone Wars kind of covers the IG because like IG-88's in that, right? Or do we know who?
I don't know if IG-88... I can't remember IG-88 specifically being in Clone Wars. There are IG units.
Okay.
And Bosk is in the Clone Wars.
Gotcha. but with these kind of assassin droids, I always love seeing them in action.
Yeah, this specifically with him, I was just so blown away with the way that they took this design that was based off of like they used his head from pieces of the cantina, and
Historically,
he always looked so stiff. I always liked him, but he just always looked very stiff. And then to take, and all the action figures were as well. And then when you take that, and then you see the way that his body and head can rotate while he's like walking in one direction, so
It's turned
fluidly,
into like a tornado of gunfire.
yeah, it is.
And you start to buy it
watch.
that these guys are
even
really formidable.
Well, even in the Shadows of the Empire game, there's like literally there's a part where you fight
You fight him on the
IG-88 on
junk
Ord
planet,
Mantell,
yeah.
and even then, like that fight, it was he was very stiff.
Yeah.
So it's really cool seeing them work with that design, and I was blown away. I was like, oh, okay, maybe IG units don't totally suck.
Yeah. No, I want to see a couple more of those in action. That was just the whole scene, start to finish, was very well done.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And then it ends with the big reveal of the series so far,
Yeah.
which they kept completely under wraps. I had no idea that
I
was
didn't hear
coming.
anything.
It was
So the big reveal is the baby,
Yeah.
which he's not a baby, but whatever. He's about ready to start collecting senior benefits. But we've never gotten a name for Yoda's species,
Nope.
right?
No.
This has completely been.
We'll see if this
Omitted.
series addresses that. But yeah,
Yeah.
everybody keeps referring to him as Baby Yoda, and then some people are like, you can't call him that. And I'm like, well, what else do you call him? Because we don't have a species name.
Yeah, no,
Right.
it's the same people was like, oh, it's Frankenstein's monster, not Frankenstein. I was like, no, it's fun to call it a Frankenstein.
Yeah, and it literally could be Baby Yoda because the doctor that wants him alive, his patch is the same patch that the clones on Kamino were wearing. So he is probably a cloner, which means he either wants to clone this baby, do genetic research, or this baby itself
is a
could be cloned from Yoda
Yeah.
50 years ago.
Yeah.
We don't
all
know.
kinds of intrigue there.
Could be, yeah.
So you waited a little bit to get Disney Plus, and I had seen The Mandalorian, and you had mentioned something about like there was a big like universe kind of changing.
I was
thing.
completely. I made up something in my mind that I thought was true. On that day, the day that Disney Plus released, I was like, I know I can't watch Mandalorian until like tomorrow night, but I kept seeing all these posts with Greedo in them, and I'm like, and I knew there was going to be a big revelation in the Mandalorian. I'm like, obviously the big reveal is Greedo's still alive. Like Han's shot didn't kill him. So I'm like, obviously Greedo's alive. I thought that was the big spoiler. And then I watched
love
the
that.
episode and I'm like, oh no, it was McClunky. That's what everyone was talking about.
Clunky.
So that, for anybody who doesn't know, is George Lucas tinkered with A New Hope again, and he had Greedo say a final line, McClunky, before he died.
Which honestly at this point just seems like George Lucas is just messing with people.
Oh, he is.
Like I don't even understand like the importance of it. Like it's just a dumb thing for him to say as a laser rips through him.
Yeah. Well, when we were talking about it, I was really kind of pondering through that because I didn't know what you did or didn't know.
Yeah.
And what.
So I told you
this-
that, and you're
yeah.
like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
Why does
well-
Greedo play into this?
And I was trying to make those connections, and then thinking about like, Yoda's species has never been super prevalent. I was like, is that a big impact on the universe? If but I don't think so. It's interesting.
I think
but
it's a very
it has-
like guarded thing that Lucas has with like Yoda and his
Yeah.
species. So it's very precious, I think. So the fact that it's in here, it also indicates Lucas is more involved in this than anything else, because I don't think that would be put in there without Lucas having that idea or blessing that idea, like through, I think, Filoni. I think that's definitely in there because of Lucas's influence and input.
This is just kind of a little afterthought. I mean, Greedo might still be in there because in the beginning of the episode we do see a Rhodian and Carbonite.
It could be him.
Seems probably unlikely, but Maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to take that from you.
There are also multiple Greedos, which
Yeah.
there's Greedo the Elder and Greedo
The younger.
yeah. There's also
Greedo, the middle child.
yeah. There's also Beto, who's in Jabba's palace, and he looks just like Greedo because they use the same costume. It could be him. He's his cousin.
Lots of options there.
Yeah. But yeah, then in episode 2, we've already talked about that a little bit. It's just wonderful, like visual storytelling from beginning to end. The Trandoshan fight, those Trandoshans we see in the first episode, they're watching him in the cantina, so like they tracked him there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's a. I missed that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, the pace like it's not in a hurry. What we do get from the Mandalorian are just nice little lines of dialogue, but like there's never exposition. He's not really talking very much.
Yeah, which is great because again, going to Travis' comment about the visual storytelling, like there are just moments of just no dialogue, which is great. But like I've never we're only 2 episodes in, but at no point have I felt lost or like I didn't know what was going on or any of that.
No.
And again, going back to the visuals, another friend of mine pointed out too, like the Mandalorian with like the little space baby carriage egg thing. It's just lone wolf and cub, which I thought was a really cool little visual and obviously something that's kind of thrown to. And we even get the Cubs' contribution in this episode, which is great.
So that's going to be playing a factor into this moving forward.
Yeah.
Don't know where that's leading, but... And he has no understanding for what's going on, which, speaks to how mythic I think the idea of the Jedi and the Force is at this point. Because he doesn't know how to explain it. He tries to explain it to Quill, and he's like, I don't really even know what happened.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we would be basically a full generation out from from Order 66, and it's actively being suppressed. So, most people probably just have no frame of reference for the Force.
No, not at all.
The baby, it will be interesting how they handle it because we know on one hand it's 50 years old, but we also know like this species may just age differently.
They definitely age differently. I know that
but he can like get in and out of the
crib.
the crib at will and like move around, but doesn't seem to have full cognitive function.
Yeah. As long as they don't show him flipping around like a pinball like they did in Attack of the Clones, I'll be okay with it. So, oh boy, nothing demystified Yoda quicker for me than that fight with Dooku. It's like, oh, okay, so this is just dumb now. All right.
I mean, in total transparency, I thought that was awesome when I watched it.
I mean, if it had looked better, I probably would have liked it.
It.
War's not make one great. Oh, hey, here's me beating the hell out of a Sith Lord.
The
out
concept
of a guy
of
with a CGI pasted face on.
Yeah. The concept of Episode 2 is probably my favorite of all Star Wars episodes.
I mean, I don't even think any of the stories in the prequels are bad. Just the execution is sorely lacking across the board for him.
Yeah. I'm just curious I hope they can keep it consistent of like, is he a baby or is he not or maybe she? We don't really know
we
that.
don't know that either.
Yeah, we don't know gender.
We keep talking about it being a clone of Yoda. It could be a clone of Yaddle.
Yeah, that's true. Very well.
Somebody
We don't know what happened to Yaddle. She
We don't?
disappeared around the same time.
Yeah.
This baby might have been...
Don't know.
Maybe Yoda and Yaddle had a baby.
That could be it.
And they hid it.
They're the only two,
gosh.
male and female of the species we know of. They had to save the species.
Yeah, you gotta propagate. Just like
Is Yoda
pandas.
Ray's dad? Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong phrasing.
This baby grows up to be Ray.
And the Mandalorian abandons her on a planet. School of Hard Knocks.
They had a plan all along.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mandalorian makes it back to his ship, and his ship has been just stripped.
Yeah.
Did he not lock it? What do you like? What?
Yeah, I don't know what the
I mean,
safety,
Jawas
like,
are
protocols
scavengers, so I mean
Yeah, they're good at this.
they're resourceful little creatures.
And I was so, I mean, as we see here, as I just read, this takes place on Arvala 7.
Yes.
Which, at first, I heard
Just
people,
looks like
people
Tatooine.
were like, this is Tatooine, right? And I'm like, well, I don't know if blurgs are on Tatooine. And then this happened, and I'm like, well, they're like Jawas, so like, where else is it? And then we see mud, and I'm like, well, there's no mud on Tatooine. I keep like
It's
running back and forth. But,
yeah, well, Star
and they're
Wars
also
desert planet.
yeah, they've got red eyes too, which
Oh, that's true.
and
Oh.
there were action figures for the Mandalorian released on Force Friday. There were only a few action figures made. IG-11, the Mandalorian, Cara Dune, and an off-world Jawa, which has red eyes instead of the
Oh, no
Like the
Horatio
orange.
Sands action figure or
No,
Brian
not yet.
Posehn, the ill-fated cab driver.
No. But I kind of wonder. I'm going to make like a weird prediction. I think that maybe one of these Jawas is a stowaway and
Okay.
might become a recurring character. Based solely on the fact that they made an action figure. I don't know if that'd be true.
Interesting.
We've never really got
Same reason why I think IG-11 is coming back. I don't think he's gone. He's coming back for sure.
I mean, yeah, he's a droid. I mean, it'd be easy enough to put him back together.
Yeah, because he didn't
Not
get
like
his
he self-destructed.
No, he didn't self-destruct or get his central harness damaged.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
That'd be
also...
interesting.
I'm real curious, too, how many people are looking for this this baby Yoda. Because we see that IG-11 clearly had conflicting orders from what the Mandalorian had received.
Yep.
Which makes me wonder, was it the same bounty just picked up by multiple hunters, or does somebody else also have a bounty out on this thing?
Yeah, I think it's the latter.
Yeah. So I'm real curious to see what other forces are at play here, trying to track it down. Because I mean, obviously, I think we can safely assume Werner Herzog is not a good guy.
No.
Also, I hope he wrote all of his own dialogue because it just seems like he did.
Just improv.
I could just see that, like that dialogue over just somebody getting ripped apart by a grizzly bear or whatever. It's like, yeah, no, this sounds like I'm just watching one of his movies. Like this is just leftover voiceover from Grizzly Man or Aguirre, the Wrath of God or whatever else.
This version of Werner Herzog made a documentary called Mudhorn Man, and it's about a guy obsessed with those mudhorn rhinos.
Space rhinos. Yeah, they look like what is it, a cross between a bantha and a rhino.
Yeah, or a reek from episode 2.
Oh,
Which is from the,
is that the
Geonosis
thing from
arena.
the Coliseum fight? And not
Very Star Wars, no matter how you say
not
it.
Alfie Allen's character from Game of
No,
Thrones.
not that one.
Nope. Then what's the scavenger's name that's been helping him kind of through this?
Quill,
Quill.
Yeah. the Nick Nolte character.
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
I just refer to him as Nick Nolte in his final form.
Or Ugg Nolte. That's what I heard Rebel Force Radio call him.
God, yeah, I made a comment to my roommate when we were watching it, and I said, I was like, this just looks like tiny Ron Perlman. He's like, you know who's voicing it, right? I was like, well, it's not Ron Perlman. He's like, that's Nick Nolte. I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense because it looks like Nick Nolte.
Yeah.
I don't think they could have cast Nick Nolte in a better-looking character that approximated him than an Ugnaught.
I think they definitely knew they were having Nick Nolte voice him before
Oh, yeah.
they started designing this guy.
And he's so good, too. He's great.
Yeah, I mean both episodes. He's a great addition.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I kept wanting it to be Warwick Davis. Because it even kind of looks like Warwick Davis after he's had a bunch of prosthetics slapped on him.
So that's a good question though about the Mandalorian as a whole. Will we get a Warwick Davis and Anthony Daniels cameo?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Like,
we look
kinda-
forward to that at some point.
Yeah, you
Yeah, I
kinda
feel like we
need
got to
to,
get
right?
Warwick Davis.
Yeah.
Warwick
Maybe
Davis
we'll
could have
see
been
the-
some of those Jawas.
Yeah, maybe we'll see the Leprechaun in Carbonite.
Has he played a Jawa historically?
He's actually not played a Jawa
I didn't
yet,
think
no.
so. He's got the wrong shape for it.
No.
He's typecast.
My wife and I were watching Phantom Menace last night, and every time we see Wald, I think, oh, it's Warwick Davis.
But Quill, he's a great character, and
Oh, he's
seems
wonderful.
just deeply wise, and challenging the Mandalorian. He doesn't have any,
Yeah, like he's not scared of him.
not at all. Yeah,
Which, oh god, it is. I have spoken. Like every time he does that, I was like,
Yeah.
what a great line. Like what a great period to slap on the sentence.
Yeah.
yeah.
Just need to start saying that to my kids.
I have spoken.
It takes a certain kind of person to be able to do that, I think.
Oh, it's so great too. And the other thing, like just more to the characterization of Pedro Pascal's Mandalorian, that exchange they have after they get back to the ship, like when he even offers Quill the position as like a crewman, and he says, like,
Yeah.
"I worked too long to be free," and all that, and he completely like is understanding of all of
Yeah.
that, and like, God, what a great little exchange, like that tells us so much about both of these characters without having to give us like a bunch of flashbacks or exposition or
Back
anything.
on my world, you know.
Yeah.
Show don't tell.
It's, yeah, and from what we see in episode 2 and the fact that I feel like the only constant in the series is going to be the Mandalorian.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way.
At first, I thought this is going to be something where we see like this main group of characters kind of with the Mandalorian as a centerpiece, but we're going to see a lot of similar locations a lot. And I think we're definitely going to see him return to the planet where he got the bounty from and everything like that. But
Yeah, there'll be reoccurring characters.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's going to be an ensemble cast. Like, it's
No.
just, it does seem like it's just him.
yeah, it's definitely this journey that you're going on. And I enjoy that
Yes.
so much. It's not formulaic at all. It just, in the second episode, and I think in the third, and, you know, in every episode coming next is just going to be this next fun chapter in this like adventure book.
Yeah. It definitely adds to kind of the Western feel of it. Do we know if these are going to be just kind of one-off stories, or are they going to do multiple seasons?
Well,
It
John
got renewed
Favreau
for a second
yeah,
season
he's,
already.
Okay.
he's been he posted an Instagram photo from the set of season 2, which they're in
Awesome.
production right now.
Awesome.
And it's the same helmet. So I would assume it's going to be a continued story in some form.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
I hope
unlike
so. Pedro Pascal needs the work. Keep him working.
unlike what we've talked about with Watchmen, I could see this going for seasons and seasons,
Oh, yeah.
and still being just as enjoyable, and adding little elements. Like, I think this is kind of the opposite of where they went with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Marvel. Like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. really has to tell its story and has to have its characters to be able to do something. I think Mandalorian could pretty easily weave into a one-off movie and then come back and tell different things. Like, the universe is big enough and the cast is small enough that you could
Oh, yeah.
really keep it
yeah.
agile.
Well, in the reading, they even talked about like if the Mandalorian ends up being successful enough that they would consider doing like a movie adaptation.
Yeah.
At some point, which is great. And again, another testament of the show. Like in the space of 2 episodes, I care more about this character than I ever cared about Boba Fett or Jango Fett.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's very likable, like characterization and portrayal,
Oh yeah,
along with the intrigue and mystery.
yeah.
Whereas
So
Boba Fett is just like all mystery, and he's like, all right, and he's got like some cool armor, but this guy,
but he
has-
doesn't. He never did anything.
No, yeah,
So like, what he shot an arm dart around Han Solo. Like that was it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Before we, completely move on, I think there's like the one big thing from this episode that we really have to cover. It's the Force has been introduced.
yes.
They waited all of 2 episodes, and now the Force is a big part of it.
Yeah.
How do you? What do you guys? What's your take on it?
I mean, I don't think the Force itself necessarily is going to be as big a part. Like, I don't think we're going to see that regularly happening in episodes. But I was definitely waiting on it because, like, the scene where the baby Yoda keeps jumping out, like, and walking up, like, he even, like, is lifting his hand, was like, is he going to fix his armor? Like, what's he
Yeah,
going to do?
I
Like,
didn't know what he was going to do
get-
there because he was trying to fix.
like
his
repair his,
arm.
like,
There
chest
was a
plate or his
wound.
arm, yeah.
Yeah, so I was
So,
like,
like,
he's going to heal him?
Yeah, so like he kept jumping out, like he was clearly going to do something, and then the Mandalorian keeps putting him back in the crib, and he finally closes it. So yeah, it's like as soon as he started shooting, I was like, "Is he going to lift this big old thing?" And like, and it's great because like it's after we've seen the Mandalorian just get knocked around like a rag doll, which is super funny on its own. And then like literally his last resort was like he just pulls out his knife and it's just like, all right, I'm just gonna wait on you to charge into me and hope that the weight of you brings this into you.
Yeah.
But then then Baby Yoda just lifts him off the ground, like clearly struggling to do so. And then the Mandalorian finally just like jabs it into the side of the thing's brain. But like, yeah, it was a great build up. Like the tension, like like that entire scene was great. And again, too, like even the little moments where like the Mandalorian's using like his wrist control, that like when he swings the crib out of the way of danger.
Yeah,
like just another element. Like this show does a really good job. Like it's really there's this idea like you're always supposed to keep your characters in danger. And this show does that really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's constantly, even if it's just like a gigantic inconvenience, like with the Jawas, like there's always something happening. Mm-hmm. Like there's no real state of harmony for the Mandalorian for the most part at any point. Like it's just constantly it's like, all right, we did this thing. It's like, oh great, now this thing's wrong.
Yeah, there's always somebody coming after him. They either want the Trandoshans who want
yeah,
the
like
Baby
literally
Yoda,
right in the beginning,
or
like,
the Jawas who want parts of his ship.
Yup.
Yeah.
Like,
Or-
he can't even make it back to his ship without it being a whole thing.
They want his armor. They want like he's got things that people want, and we've already established. I mean, the Star Wars universe is dangerous.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, there's danger somewhere.
And this is again, like I feel like this is the clearest that it's been in any of the Star Wars adaptation, like any of the Star Wars in a while. Because like literally, even from the opening moments of the first episode, we get obviously they're in a pretty dangerous, Mos Eisley-esque bar. And then even out on the ice, like even returning to a ship was like, oh hey, there's this giant space walrus that just eats land speeders whole.
Yeah,
Even if you're watching for him.
Yeah, it's just constant.
kind of makes it think of Dune a little bit.
Yeah,
with the sandworms, and the Jawa's eyes actually made me think of Dune as well, because in Dune, if you're on the planet for so long and you're around the spice, your eyes turn blue. So I'm like, oh, do the Jawa's eyes turn a different color when they're not on Tatooine or they're on this planet?
Interesting. That makes sense. Cause, I mean, because you said specifically it was the off-world Jawas that had the red-colored eyes. Yeah. So, like, are they natively from Tatooine?
I don't know. We don't really
because
know.
that was something I was curious about too. Because like I saw, like I remembered it wasn't. It looks like Tatooine, but I knew it wasn't Tatooine because I remember this saying I was like, you have to go to this specific planet. Like I remember them saying a planet's name, but it wasn't Tatooine. But I was like, are the Jawas from anywhere? Like, are they just a race of scavengers that like are just everywhere and don't really have a home, like nomadic? Like, so it was really cool seeing them pop up somewhere else.
It would make sense for that species being so drawn to like mechanics and technology that they would just find themselves in a spaceship and it being like taken off world, and it's like they can probably spread very easily.
Yeah,
that idea.
I'm really curious how they get around because I don't think their sand crawlers are equipped for space travel.
No, I was very like surprised to see that. I was like, "It's a sand," and then like the whole
the
sand
Jawas
crawler
was one
sequence.
thing. I was like, "Oh, it makes sense." It's like, "Oh no, they've got a gigantic sand crawler too."
Yeah.
Okay.
And just talking about the visuals, like they're like this whole sequence. I'm like, how are we seeing this right now? How is this happening?
Yeah,
I just couldn't believe that we were seeing this.
Oh
sequence.
yeah, just seeing the Mandalorian just like Batman walking up the side of a sandcrawler, like and like just swatting at Jawas, like poking out the portals. God, oh god! Every time he threw one off the sandcrawler, I just laughed so hard. Like, yeah, just wholesale slaughter should never be funny, but man, when you do it to Jawas, like especially, I also love that apparently amongst Mandalorians, disintegration is just a thing that they do.
Yeah. Because he had to tell
part of the
Boba
repertoire.
Fett no disintegrations.
No
And we see
disintegrations.
why.
Yeah.
There's
The Force is the ultimate MacGuffin.
Yeah.
It's and I in Star Wars I love the use in the original trilogy. I think it's cool. It's a cool MacGuffin, but once it's introduced, there's an element of tension that just gets relieved because anything could happen.
I think one thing
we'll see how they use it.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Part of me is at least hoping that this is the most it's going to be leaned on. Is in
This
one
scene was
yeah,
gotcha.
where we find out that in addition to being a Baby Yoda, it also clearly has Force potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the use of it, yeah. But the idea of it, I think, could come into play in a heavy way. With him in this underground Mandalorian culture specifically, there's a lot of history between the warrior Mandalorians and the Jedi, which we see explored in Clone Wars and in Rebels. I think that's going to come to a weird head. He doesn't know about that. And we don't really know what to make of this underground culture that they have going on. So I'm very curious to see them explore that further. I'm looking to see characters from Clone Wars and Rebels potentially show up. There's a character named Bo-Katan, which I think could show up. At the end of Rebels, she is the leader of the Mandalorians.
Okay.
Going into A New Hope and everything. And there's also Sabine Wren, who, she was a
Part of the main cast.
Rebels character.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we could definitely see connections being made with those characters and with that culture and their history and how it plays into what he's going through right now and what he's going to discover about his own history and his culture's relationship to these Force users.
Yeah, part of me definitely thinks that that's the reason that somebody wants this Baby Yoda dead is because they don't want the Force to be a presence.
Because another
in the
thing
galaxy
too is the Mandalorians were for a brief period of time being led by Darth Maul in the Clone Wars. And there are still people who are, I think, could be devoted to his ways and everything, and that also would come into conflict if, specifically, the armorer has a helmet that looks similar to the followers of Maul, how their helmets looked. So if they came across this Baby Yoda and they're like, oh, well, this is a problem somehow.
Yeah, all things that I think we'll learn more about as time goes on.
Yeah.
Deep Rebels spoiler, but we know that Maul is dead now. After not being dead for so long. So those kind of ties. I don't know. Do you think they would explore it? Because there's so much backstory you'd have to know.
Yeah, I don't think
to
it's going to be an explicit way of exploring it. I think they'll handle anything like that very organically, and the fans who know about it will know about it and appreciate it, whereas no need to complicate things with that kind of stuff. And this show that I don't think they're going to be complicating anything.
Yeah, what the show has done really well so far is it's an easy entry point. You don't really have to know anything about Star Wars to really get a good grasp of what's happening.
But if you do, there are all these kind of nice little nods to fans, which is great.
Yeah.
So so you said that armorer's helmet is the followers of Maul?
Yeah, in the Clone Wars, the followers of Maul, there was a coup that happened with Pre Vizsla, who was the leader of the Mandalorian subculture of warriors known as Death Watch. And that character was voiced by Jon Favreau.
Oh, was he really?
And and it comes to a head where Darth Maul uses him to gain control and then betrays him, and they fight, and spoiler, he kills him. And then
He's
he
the
gains
one
control.
that shows up with the Darksaber, right?
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
And that Darksaber has a big, deep history with the Jedi and the Mandalorians, and that's getting passed around to where that went to Maul for a while, and then it went to Sabine, and then the last thing that we know, I think Bo-Katan has it.
So there's a possibility that it shows up in the series.
Yeah.
Which would be cool. The Darksaber is a cool part of the Star Wars mythos. But
Yeah, interesting. So are there are Mandalorians helmets? Are they personalized to some extent?
Yeah, they are.
Okay, because I was wondering that because I know obviously the Mandalorians is not the same as Boba and Jango's, and again the armorer who had like the very Spartan looking helmet. Okay, that's cool to know. That's
I think everything we're seeing with that culture going on, it's different than anything we've seen in Clone Wars and Rebels. And I think to a certain degree, there's a reset happening with that because he's a foundling. He's not a Mandalorian by blood. I think he was like this refugee who was found and adopted by them. And we see kids wearing the helmets, which we never see in Clone Wars or Rebels. I think the culture as a whole after the Galactic Civil War is kind of starting over and, starting from underground and rising up.
well, he even has that line about guns being part of their religion,
Yeah.
which is not really something that we saw before, right?
No.
yeah.
So there does seem to be something a little more spiritual about the idea of Mandalorians now.
Yeah.
More ritualistic, although they were kind of before. But like, this seems just
Almost more so.
yeah. This seems like a whole new thing.
Yeah.
Well, and then
I
Quill
like
even
it so
has
far.
Yeah. Me too.
Quill even has that line too when the Jawas ask for the Beskar steel. It's like, oh,
You
can't.
can't
He's
ask for that.
Mandalorian. Like, you can't ask him about that. It's like, okay, so they've got this like clear attachment to this item as well. As I feel like we're definitely like we're learning a lot without them over explaining it, which is
Yeah.
great.
Keep doing that.
Yeah, and I think they're going to. Like I said, Jon Favreau's got a pretty solid track record, so like I'm not worried about this show in the slightest.
No, me neither.
Oh, not at all. Yeah, I think I was talking to Travis about this earlier. This does not seem like all right, rush something out Star Wars related for Disney Plus. This seems like they've crafted
Very
this.
carefully. Yeah, like I mean, yeah, a show like this doesn't happen on accident, or at least a show with the quality and attention to detail that we've seen so far. Like this has been very clearly, meticulously planned out and crafted, and yeah, I'm excited to see where it continues to go.
I also like the, might be controversial, I like the fact that the episodes are going to be the length that they are. Or they're going to just be what they are. I think sometimes you're going to get an episode that's 30 minutes. I think we could see an episode that's like clocks in a little over an hour. But they're not being formulaic and they're not being held to like, we got to keep it within like this. We got to have commercial breaks. It's just, we're going to tell like this chapter of this and whatever the pacing is like that this specific story needs. And wherever it ends, we're going to use that and we're just going to stick to it. And we don't have to
I think
conform.
that's great. Like I know because season 4 of Arrested Development, when it premiered on Netflix, that was the approach that it took. Because it went from, but the difference was that it went from being like a 21, 22 minute like sitcom format to this thing. And I mean, there were a lot of other reasons that I don't think it worked. Partially, largely the fact that they had to shoot around the cast.
Yeah.
Whereas this, like, we're not getting that. We're not getting a pre-existing show that's being tailored. And there's like, all right, we'll write it as long as it needs to be. Like, this is being done solely. I was like, hey, this is how much we wrote in this episode. This is what works. Because I think, was it the first episode is almost 40, and then the second one only clocks in at 32.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's great. I think it's going to better serve the show. I mean, honestly, I kind of wish that more, like, I know it's not going to happen on network television because they've got a format to stick to. But with streaming, there's no reason not to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I will never be mad at a show that's 10 minutes shorter, but it trims all the fat.
So I didn't check the timestamps or anything during this episode, and when it ended, I was like, wait, hang on.
Yeah,
We've got 10 more minutes.
Oh, but
no,
was that shorter than the first one? I was like, yeah, by about 8 minutes.
Yeah, but it felt like the right place for it to end.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
it didn't. I wasn't disappointed, and
No,
tell the story that you've got. Don't stretch it to fit arbitrary time.
Yeah,
leave them wanting more.
The episode is
Yeah,
serving the story
absolutely.
and not the other way around, which is great.
Yeah, I think it is leaving all of us wanting more, and I think we're looking forward to Friday's episode.
Yeah, I'm also I love that they're staggering the releases.
Yeah, I like that too.
That honestly has been one of the biggest issues with like streaming shows.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, it takes away so much of the tension. It takes away, honestly, like kind of that cultural, like communal viewing and discussion.
Yeah.
When it's like, oh, I can just watch all of Orange is the New Black like today or whatever.
And somebody will. And,
Yeah.
And next time you're on social media, you'll see the spoilers already.
Absolutely. Well, like when Stranger Things drops, it was like, oh yeah, I already burned through the whole thing. I was like,
That's the prime example, yeah.
yeah, which is nuts to me because like I mean, I think back to like Lost, and like even Breaking Bad. I came into probably 2 or 3 seasons after it had started, but like after I burned through those first ones, like I thought I was gonna hate having to wait, but like it's just part of it.
Yeah.
And I really liked kind of that experience, like talking with people who were into the show, like, you know, like, hey, what do you think's gonna happen? And like kind of having this like this cultural like moment, like, and even Game of Thrones had that. Like everyone, like even people who aren't into like fantasy, like was tuning in to watch this show.
But I think the element that you're missing in that is even the bad season of Game of Thrones was talked about longer than a great season of Stranger Things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every week people tuned in to talk about how much they hated this season. But Stranger Things was there for about a week.
Then a week later,
And
it's
it was
because you've already seen everything.
It had already been totally consumed. Whereas I really am curious if Netflix kind of adopts this for the next season of Stranger Things.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Because they have got to keep people talking about stuff now with Disney. Like, there's too much competition.
Well, I mean, because as of right now, like
Yeah.
Stranger Things and Mindhunter are like the 2 things I like on Netflix. So
Yeah.
I could conceivably be like, all right, well, I'm just gonna subscribe to Disney Plus,
Pick it up for a month.
yeah, and then once once those shows are, I'm like, well, I can just
Yeah, like
I'll
honestly,
subscribe
the
for
only
a month.
reason I've still got my Netflix right now is because Michelle, my fiance, is watching Sabrina. So like, I mean,
Nice.
they're obviously like Netflix has a couple of shows that are keeping people tuned in, but with all these other platforms cropping up, like they're gonna have to do something to adapt and accommodate for that. Because I mean, like how many people are just gonna create like a fake email and do like a week-long trial just to watch, you know, season 4 of Stranger Things if it drops all at once. Like I literally did that yesterday for a Sling TV trial just so I can watch all of the new season of It's Always Sunny and then cancel the trial.
I mean, I've done the same too. I think Netflix is going to have to start thinking about these other options, especially when we're seeing that it works and it works well.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah. But no, it's very exciting. And to what you said before about how Game of Thrones brought people in who are not into fantasy at all. There's this like cultural upswell of like people tuning in and getting into it and loving this. And I'm already seeing that in the first week of this show.
Oh,
where
yeah.
People are like posting about watching it. I'm like, I didn't know you were into Star Wars.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah. Like
I think
I've
it's
seen,
getting a lot of people.
I've seen like 80% of my feed has been Baby Yoda stuff.
Yeah.
Where people, I was like, what? When I talked to you about The Last Jedi, you said you didn't even care. So yeah, I'm actually gonna try and use Baby Yoda as a selling point for my fiance because she didn't watch the first 2 episodes and I was like, all right, but if you see Baby Yoda, you're gonna change it
cute,
too.
yeah.
And
definitely, yeah. Wait, does that mean the Mandalorian is a Disney princess now? He's got a cute sidekick. He does well with animals.
maybe we'll see. What's her face? Mara Jade.
Oh,
Oh,
I would not count on that.
Yeah. Well, we know that Terrace Cassia is at least canon.
Yeah, it is now.
Was it Solo that it gets mentioned
Yep.
in?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, which means that dumb Star Wars fighting game might be canon.
Yeah. Oh, and like with video games
I
too, the
doubt
whole
it.
like the Jawa sequence. You ever play Super Star Wars on the Super Nintendo? There's the level where you have to like climb up into a sand crawler.
That's
and
awesome.
it's very similar to what's happening here.
Oh, that's great.
Can we get an edit of the Mandalorian with just like a palette swap? It just jumps into the sequence. He grabs onto the side, and then Super Nintendo all the way up.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Look, I just want Kyle Katarn and Dash Rendar in my Star Wars. That's all.
But,
Well, Shadows is officially no longer canon, right?
no, it's not. Oh, that was another cool thing about the like brought back memories for me is my first Boba Fett action figure was from Shadows of the Empire.
Uh-huh.
And it was a 2-pack, a Shadows of the Empire 2-pack of Boba Fett and IG-88, and it came with
Nice.
a comic book. So seeing the Mandalorian and IG-11 like shoot out, I was like, oh yeah, I like had the like I remember those two characters being not these two characters, but the ones these were based on, like packaged together.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, so much of Star Wars is just steeped in nostalgia.
Yeah.
I mean, even side things like IG-88 are.
Oh, yeah.
There's
Well, and
so
also
much
Shadows
of
of the Empire was genuinely great.
Oh yeah.
Like, I love Shadows. Video game's not as good as I remembered it, but I think that was largely due to the limitations of the Nintendo 64.
Oh,
Yeah, in a big way.
But I mean, I don't think there's a cooler Star Wars name than Dash Rendar. It's even better than Han Solo.
I mean, Dash Rendar is just kind of
It's a badass sounding name.
well, yeah, but the character as a whole, he's just kind of the streamlined, like.
Oh,
cool
sure, but
version.
what a great name.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Star Wars is a lot of so-so characters with really cool names.
Nia Nub.
Salacious Crumb,
Yeah.
which is what I referred to all of the little rat things when we see them in the first episode.
they're
When they're
Kowakian
just
monkey lizards.
what are they?
Kowakian monkey lizards.
Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna keep calling them Salacious Crumbs.
Oh, jeez.
I'm gonna start calling Chewbacca Poochie.
Any closing thoughts?
I mean, I'm excited for more of this. It's been great so far, and yeah, I can't wait to see where the show goes. Like, it's 2 episodes in, and like even after the first episode, I was like, yeah, no, I'm on board for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Even running parallel with Watchmen, which is really kind of where we got our namesake. This is a show that seems like it's going to hold up well.
Oh yeah, I think so.
I was really concerned with as good as Watchmen has been. I was like, oh man, are they going to be able to keep pace? It's a very different show.
It took my mind upon the rewatch to like fully like shift gears into like this storytelling now.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah, because Mandalorian, like, obviously there's a lot going on, but like, it's nowhere near as dense as Watchmen.
No, but I think it's still as meticulously and lovingly crafted.
Oh, absolutely.
I think there's still
agree with that
as
100%.
many details
Yeah.
to find on screen.
I think
just in a
Mandalorian
different way.
inspires wonder, whereas Watchmen inspires like intrigue.
Yeah.
And
I
we'll
think
get
it's-
answers to Watchmen, but like Mandalorian will leave you going, "Oh wow, the world is so huge. I wonder what's over there. I wonder what's out around that
Yeah,
corner."
which is what this show is based on. Is this show is supposed to be like while this is happening with our main characters that we know from the movies, like a few miles away, like this could be happening. So just kind of like what the whole world is based on. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the 3rd episode. They screened chapters 1, 2, and 3 at the El Capitan last week, and I've heard a lot of good things about episode 3 and where it leaves you. So really looking forward to
Awesome.
that. So
I'm just excited for more Werner Herzog.
yeah, me too. And so in the meantime, where can people find you, Ryan?
I'm at Harbjagen on Twitter, HARBJAGEN.
How about you, Dustin?
Just DustinMeadowsComedy.com. It's got all my social links and everything on there, my occasional blogs and whatnot as well. So
Perfect. And you can find the show on Twitter as @WhoWatchesPod and on Instagram and on Facebook as well. You can reach the show at whowatchespodcast@gmail.com. And episodes of this show can be found on our main feed of Who Watches alongside our coverage of the HBO series Watchmen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find your podcasts. And we are on YouTube, where we post every episode of this show and our main Who Watches show. And please subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Those are very appreciated. And if you're checking out this show for the Mandalorian coverage and you want to hear more of our work, we highly recommend checking out HBO's Watchmen if you haven't already. Really excited about Friday's new episode of The Mandalorian and the wonderful adventure this series looks to be taking us on. And I feel like pretty much everyone else has taken up I Have Spoken to in their coverage of this show. So with that in mind, initiate self-destruct sequencing.
No, don't do that.